tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. There's no fucking way I'm going to stop. No. 20 minutes after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't eaten anything. I've hardly drunk anything. It's September the 22nd, 2022. I am not receiving any kind of competent, capable service from any of the public service agencies acting as the public service sector in British Columbia. Because they're all criminal. They're all manned by humans, which is legally defined as a monster. So let's call the Attorney General here and just see what it has to say for itself, because you know they never pick up the telephone, and you know that they have never anything intelligent to say, because they're no different than a dog, no different than a pig. 98.5% identical to an ape. That's what I'm dealing with here, and I'm not an animal. I have Rh negative blood. That makes me a woman. And yeah, there's a difference, and yeah, it matters. So let's call up here the Victoria office here and see what they have to say for themselves, because you know they're not going to pick up the telephone, and they're not going to call me back. And so what these savages have done to me, starting in 2009, they kidnapped my son, realized that he was highly marketable, because the highly intelligent children are the ones that the pedophiles want here in Canada. That's a protected coven here in Canada. Go read Section 170 of the Criminal Code of Canada so you can understand that in Canada here, parents and guardians are legally allowed to rape and sexually molest their property. It's right there encoded in the Criminal Code of Canada if you don't understand where you live and you don't understand what's going on here. So when these children are, or the kid, right, because there's a difference between children and kids, when they're sexually molested or raped by the guardian in foster care, there's never any charges laid. That's why. So when I reported that my son was being sexually molested by Patricia Taylor, who'd been investigated before for sexually molesting children, her and its dyke daughter there, the whole thing was covered up because it's legal. Remember what I taught you about legal? All things legal are all things witch and witchcraft. Every single animal, human, called to the bar has been called to the bar because it's a compulsive liar, a murderer, thief, and destroyer. And it doesn't matter which one of these liars you speak to, the sing-song is always the fucking same. Have you talked to a lawyer? You need a lawyer? Are you a lawyer? Fuck bitch no, okay? I don't fucking think so. Right? I have rights here, apparently, according to all the circus monkeys who write all this bullshit. The rules of society they will not follow. They don't have to, right? When you're an animal, you don't have to follow any rules. Let's call up here and see what kind of service we're going to get today, because I'm not going to get any service, and that's why I'm recording everything. I'm building a case. The king and I are building a case, you see, because in King's Court, there's two who sit in judgment. The King of Kings sits there in judgment, and there's one of his witnesses sits in judgment. A Levite priest sits beside the judge in a legitimate, lawful, sane, common law courtroom. I'm an expert on the law, okay? If you don't know who I am and what I'm about, let's call up here and see what kind of idiots we can get on the phone.
Thank you for calling Service BC. For support for those arriving from Ukraine, or to learn how you can help, press 1. If you are calling about coronavirus COVID-19 vaccination registration, or general coronavirus COVID-19 information, please press 2. If you are calling about MSP or pharmacare, press 3. For all other inquiries, please hold. Thank you for calling Service BC. During this call, Service BC may ask for and collect personal information. Your call may be recorded for quality assurance and...
Okay, what's going on here? I've just tried to call the Attorney General contact number in Victoria, and I'm being put through to the Service BC agency. So this is the level of absolute unfit for public service sector in the private for-profit corporation known as the Province of British Columbia, which was sold early in the year to China. If you're not up on current events, and if you don't do thousands of hours of research like I do, the King of Kings brings evidence and proof before my eyes and before my ears so I can inform you, the daft of the public, what's going on. And if I can imagine that you can't get an attorney general, other ministry contact, crowns, agency, boards, and commissions. I mean, are you joking here? So now here today we've got this thing calling itself Murray Rankin. Now it's decided to become the Attorney General, apparently. But when I called and recorded the other day, there was different names being utilized. It was two male monkeys. And now here the Deputy Attorney General is here, Shannon Salter. So what's going on here? This is the level of absolute go around in a circle, go nowhere that you have to deal with when you're a victim of crime in British Columbia. Doesn't matter what email you send and who you send it to, you will not get competent service, you will not be respected, you will not be heard, and you will not be served. Have you heard what's happened to me this morning? Right, I'm trying to remove trespassers from my property because my property's been stolen by way of application and title fraud. And now the criminals acting as the Lawless Society of BC are now murdering me by slandering me to their partners in crime, all of their buddies who are members of the Lawless Society of BC. That's why I'm recording everything and posting it everywhere. Right? Because if you're not fighting for the oppressed, if you're not fighting for the widow, you have no value. You have no value. You are vile. If you are not helping the poor out, my bills total close to about $1,600 a month, leveled against me by the witches acting as the BC Supreme Court, who all hate me, and they all want to murder me. And yet my income from the province of British Columbia is a total of $915. So how do I get by? How do you think I'm getting by? Do you care? Do you care how I manage? I don't have money to put gas in my car. I don't have money to buy food. I don't have any money to buy the supplements that I require because I'm not from this world. So I require special care and attention. And I don't get it from anywhere. You know how many times I've been attacked by the savages acting as the Saanich Pig Department? You know how many times I've been attacked by the savages acting as Victoria Pig Department? Repeatedly and consistently. I had $50,000 worth of personal tradeswoman property stolen from me in 2008. And when I tried to report that crime, theft over $5,000, fraud, assault, I was told that that's a civil matter when I went to the Victoria Pig Department to report that crime. They refused service, which is the indictable crime of fraud and torture and misfeasance in public office and malfeasance in public office. So now there's some witch who's been utilizing $50,000 worth of my stolen property for the last 4 years to make itself money. Well, I am homeless and destitute and I don't have anything. And yet, the witch called up the Victoria Pig Department, who then decided to come and harass me constantly and repeatedly. And these witches acting as the Attorney General's office here tried to run a peace bond on me because the witch has claimed that it's afraid of me because it's in possession of $50,000 of my personal property. You don't get to walk into someone's business and take it over and not pay that individual for the tradesperson property. That's not how life works, but it's how it works here in BC if you're me. Now, my brother prophesied that I would be hated by this world. Now, it's one thing to read that on a page, but it's an entirely different matter to be living that out. And I'm living that out. I am hated by this world because I'm a righteous woman. right-minded, right-speaking, righteous woman. I am hated. Absolutely hated. So let's call this Shannon Salter here and see what it has to say for itself. Because I don't pick up the phone, right?
Thank you for calling the Office of Deputy Attorney General Richard Fife and Deputy Solicitor General Mark Steven.
See what I mean?
For inquiries or complaints for the Ministry of Attorney General, please send us an email at mag.correspondence@gov.bc.ca. Again, that is mag.correspondence@gov.bc.ca. And for inquiries or complaints with the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General, please send us an email at pfsg.correspondence@gov.bc.ca. Again, that is pfsg.correspondence@gov.bc.ca. If you do not have access to email, please leave a detailed message outlining your questions or concerns with your name and contact information so we can respond in a timely manner. Thank you. After the tone, please record your message. When you finish recording, hang up or press the pound key for more options.
My name is Victoria Evans. My callback number is 250-661-0610. Those email addresses you are providing to the public seeking public service do not work. Why is that? I have a myriad of complaints against individuals acting as this department, and I need to be spoken to personally by someone in this public service agency before the end of the day today. I have a myriad of complaints, one of which is 2 months ago, I filed an application with the Crime Victim Assistance Program regarding a rape, and then the rapist blew out a window in my car. It should not take a year to process that application. When I emailed that public service agency, I let them know that this was an emergency and you had to handle the matter immediately. Yet I called there the other day. You haven't even looked at it. Why is that? That is unacceptable service. Are you aware that I have had multiple acts of genocide committed against myself and my family? And Johnny Van Camp and his partners in crime, acting as the BC Supreme Court, have covered up those crimes? Refused to pay me for the damages that you have caused to me and my family? Why is that? I need an explanation. I do not hire liars. I do not associate with BC bar members, except for the ones in this office who are going to be dealing with me personally. You all seem to be criminals, and you are going to give an explanation for why you refuse to serve me. Because that's indictable crime. You are obstructing justice. That's an indictable crime. Obstructing justice is an indictable crime. Torture is an indictable crime. Misfeasance and malfeasance in public office are serious, serious civil torts. You get emails from me constantly and you refuse to serve me because of your hatred for my race. And you're going to need to answer for why I have no money to live and why you forced me into prostitution against my will after you and your partners in crime stole my home by way of application and title fraud. So a couple of BC Asians here could launder $750,000. Now there's trespassers on my property and I'm being continually attacked by public service agents in the district of Saanich. And you are going to explain this behavior towards me. Because you have to. That's your job. I'm not asking you for a favor. I'm telling you to do your job. Do you understand? Did you catch my name? I am a counselor. I'm a special prosecutor from a foreign jurisdiction. Do you understand that? My name is Victoria Nevins. You will be calling me back. You are going to be dealing with this. Any and all conversations are recorded for quality assurance and training purposes because you all seem to be unfit for service. You can call me back at 250-661-0610. You are not going to refuse to serve me. You are not going to refuse to tell the truth, and justice is going to be served to me and my family for what you've done to us. Do you understand? Now, did I just explain to you before I made that phone call that when you got on that phone call, they've got different sewer rats acting in these public service so-called roles, right? They're actors. They're hypocrites. How many times have I made phone calls this morning, and where have I gotten? I've been murdered repeatedly this morning by way of slanderous murder. If you don't understand the law, you don't understand the law of life, then you would never understand that lying is murder and slander is murder. So I'm constantly being murdered. Stealing a widow's house and embezzling her entire estate is an act of genocide. Abducting and kidnapping my son, deciding that he's highly marketable because he's highly intelligent, trafficking him to pedophiles, is an act of genocide. Go read the War Crimes and Acts Against Humanity Act. Go read it. Go read it for yourself. I do thousands and thousands of hours of research. I have no lies to tell you. I don't have time for that. I seriously don't have time for that. And I'm not going to stop. I was quiet for a little while because I had to step out of the ring because I'm dealing with the dead, and the dead are toxic. These things are weeds. Do you understand that? These are weeds. These are not wheat. They're weeds. They're arrogant abominations that you cannot have a conversation with because they're already dead. They're the walking dead. They're whitewashed tombs. All they care about is their demon mammon. That's all they care about. They're incapable of functioning normally. They can't even follow the rules of society. Because they don't have to, right? Who's going to hold them accountable? Are you going to hold them accountable? Are you going to stand beside me and help me hold them accountable? Because if you're not, what are you worth? You would be one of the vile then, wouldn't you be? Are you listening to me right now? Have you sent me any money? Have you e-transferred me any money? I post my email address everywhere. You know, I've got the bank down here, CIBC, threatening me with violent assault if I go down there and take the money that they stole from me back. You know, I've got a $55,000 invoice issued to the District of Saanich that I know that they're not going to pay because the District of Saanich is a racist criminal organization. All they care about is the money. That's why they don't want me back in my house. Because they've turned my single-family dwelling into a commercial property to make them more property tax every year, right? How many millions of dollars do they steal from residents in the District of Saanich by forcing them to pay property tax? You can only issue property tax bill to a commercial property, not to a residential property. Like I told you, I do thousands of hours of research. It's called a duty of care. It's called a duty of care. And my brother told you that if you're good, if you even give one of us a cup of water, there's a reward for you because you don't understand what we go through when we're here. If you're not one of the peculiar people, you'll never survive in our shoes for 5 seconds. And count number 3, you'd spontaneously combust. Being hated by this world, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. It's beyond exhausting. This has been going on since 2009. They kidnapped my son in March of 2009. Sold him to pedophiles when he was 8. Now, in March 2020, they've violently removed me from my interest private property that you can't steal in Canada because that's against all the contract rules, all the wills and estate rules, and all the trust rules. But they don't follow any of those rules because they don't have to. Do they? Because they're all above the law. So do I have to get violent? Because if I do the right thing, I'm going to be the one who's abducted, and I know what they're going to do to me. The pigs, acting as law enforcement, they're going to murder me. That's their plan for me. Their plan for me is enough gross negligence to cost me my life. Now, I recorded one of the satanic rituals that was run on me last year by Johnny Van Camp, Rebecca Whatmot, Robert Punnett, and Carolyn Book. All four of those animals are practicing witches. All four of them are murderers, thieves, and destroyers. There's not a word of truth coming out of any of their mouths. And they all know what they've done to me, and they do not care. Now I've been informed this morning by this satanic savage named Greer Jacks that basically if I go and try to file any kind of claim, whether civil or criminal,